Tears shock. The entertainment world stopped for a moment when Demet Özdemir, one of the brightest stars of Turkish television, broke her usual composure and let raw emotion slip through. During what seemed like a routine interview, Demet's eyes filled with tears, her lips trembled, and she whispered two words that would soon shake social media across continents. I wish. Those words, so incomplete, so haunting, were enough to send millions of fans spiraling into speculation. The silence that followed them, the way Demet lowered her gaze, almost as if she had revealed too much, created a storm of unanswered questions. What did she wish for? Was it something about her career, her personal life, or, what most people instantly suspected, her past with Can Yaman? Within minutes, clips of the interview went viral. Hashtags combining both Demet's and Can's names surged into trending lists in Turkey, Italy, and Spain. Fans dissected every second of the video, slowing down the moment her voice cracked, zooming in on her teary eyes, and replaying the pause after her words. The consensus was clear: this wasn't just a random expression of regret. This was a confession with a hidden subject, and for millions, that subject could only be Can. The love story between Demet Özdemir and Can Yaman is one that fans refuse to forget. Their on-screen chemistry in the hit series that first brought them international fame wasn't just acting, people insisted, it was too real, too natural. Rumors of a behind-the-scenes romance have never fully disappeared, even as both stars moved on with different careers and relationships. For their followers, Demet's unfinished sentence felt like the closest she had ever come to admitting what they had always believed, that a part of her heart still belongs to Can. News outlets jumped on the frenzy. Online tabloids splashed bold headlines: Demet's tearful confession, a wish for Can? And two words that revived the love story of the century. Talk shows debated it endlessly, with experts in body language claiming that Demet's hand movements and her quivering smile betrayed deep, unresolved feelings. Others insisted her emotional slip was timed too perfectly to be coincidence, hinting that maybe it was a subtle message, intended for one person only. But perhaps the strongest proof came not from what Demet said, but from what she didn't. She never clarified, never explained. Instead, she let the world interpret it in their own way. And in doing so, she reignited a fire that had been smoldering for years. For fans, this wasn't just about nostalgia. It was about unfinished business, about the hope that love stories as powerful as Demet and Can's don't simply vanish. And as the video continued to circulate, one truth became undeniable. With just two words, Demet had reminded everyone that some connections never truly fade. The aftermath of Demet Özdemir's emotional slip was nothing short of explosive. The phrase "I wish" echoed across every platform, sparking endless debates, memes, and heartfelt posts. But beyond the noise, one question stood above all: what exactly was Demet wishing for? For many fans, the answer seemed obvious. They recalled countless moments when Demet and Can Yaman's connection looked too strong to be confined to the script of a television series. Behind-the-scenes videos from their breakout show, where they laughed uncontrollably, exchanged glances that seemed unscripted, and shared genuine warmth, resurfaced online. Fans edited these clips side by side with the new interview, creating montages that painted a clear picture. Demet's tears belonged to a love story that had never truly ended. Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok turned into digital battlegrounds. Some users wrote, "She doesn't need to say his name, we all know who she meant." Others argued, maybe she was talking about life in general, not necessarily about Can. Yet the overwhelming majority leaned toward the romantic interpretation. One viral tweet put it bluntly: when Demet says "I wish," the world hears Can Yaman. The international press fed into the hysteria. Italian magazines, already fascinated with Can's presence in their country, ran stories with titles like "Demet's Wish, a hidden message across borders?" In Spain, entertainment shows replayed the footage in prime time, their hosts speculating passionately about whether the Turkish actress had indirectly confessed her lingering feelings. Even in Latin America, where Turkish dramas have massive fan bases, local tabloids translated and spread the story. Can's silence only added fuel to the fire. At a glamorous event in Venice, he appeared on the red carpet looking as confident as ever, dressed sharply, smiling at the cameras. But fans noticed something peculiar. When a reporter shouted a question about Demet, his smile faltered for just a second before he walked away without answering. That brief hesitation was enough for fans to interpret as proof he had seen the clip, and it had shaken him. Meanwhile, Demet's close friends and colleagues were bombarded with questions. Some avoided commenting altogether, while others hinted that she had been reflective lately, looking back at her journey with a mix of pride and longing. A co-star even suggested in an interview that Demet was still learning to balance her heart with her career, a cryptic statement that fans quickly linked to Can. The narrative grew larger than life. Fans weren't just analyzing Demet's interview anymore, they were reliving an entire love story through every new headline. The longing, the heartbreak, the what-ifs, suddenly, it all came rushing back. And Demet's 2 words had become a global phenomenon, reopening a chapter many thought had been closed forever. In the days that followed Demet Özdemir's shocking confession, the atmosphere around her life changed dramatically. Paparazzi in Istanbul began following her every move more aggressively, hoping to capture a clue that might confirm the public's suspicions. Every coffee run, every quiet dinner, even the way she glanced at her phone was turned into a potential headline. The unspoken question lingered everywhere: was she secretly reaching out to Can? The gossip frenzy wasn't limited to Turkey. In Italy, where Can Yaman has built a second home and a devoted fanbase, the media linked every one of his appearances to Demet's tearful words. When he arrived at a charity gala in Rome, cameras zoomed in on his expression the moment someone mentioned her name. Though he gave no verbal answer, his slight pause and deep breath became the subject of endless online analysis. Some argued it was a sign of suppressed emotion, while others insisted it was a deliberate act of restraint. On social media, fans created narratives of their own. Some wrote fictional scenarios about Can secretly watching the clip late at night, his heart heavy with memories. Others imagined Demet scrolling through old photos, regretting the silence that had grown between them. These fan-made stories went viral, because in many ways, they reflected what millions of people truly believed, that the love story wasn't over, just unfinished. Adding to the drama, entertainment programs began inviting psychologists and relationship experts to discuss Demet's words. One expert on a Turkish morning show said, "When someone says 'I wish' with tears in their eyes, it is almost always about something deeply personal and unresolved." Considering her history, it's not difficult to guess what, or who, she meant. Another Italian commentator added, "Can and Demet are modern icons of romance. Fans project their hopes onto them because they represent a love that transcends fiction." Even fellow celebrities couldn't escape the wave of questions. Co-stars who had worked alongside both Demet and Can were asked about the interview during press events. Most carefully avoided direct answers, but one actor who had shared the screen with them years ago remarked, "Chemistry like theirs is rare. You can't fake that kind of connection." That single comment was enough to give fans more fuel, convincing them that their interpretations weren't just fantasies. Through it all, Demet remained graceful but distant. She continued posting on social media, showing moments from her professional life, smiling with colleagues, promoting upcoming projects, and sharing glimpses of her glamorous style. Yet fans kept insisting they could see the sadness behind her eyes. Captions like "She smiles for the world but cries for him" flooded her comments, turning every photo into another piece of the puzzle. By this point, the simple phrase "I wish" had grown into a cultural moment. It was no longer just about what Demet felt, it was about what millions of people around the world wanted her to feel. And with Can's silence echoing louder than any words, the mystery between them only deepened. As the storm around Demet Özdemir's emotional slip grew louder, the silence from both her and Can Yaman became deafening. Neither offered clarification, and in that silence, the media and fans built their own truth. Every day, new theories surfaced, some hopeful, others heartbreaking. In Turkey, television talk shows replayed the clip of Demet whispering "I wish" with almost obsessive frequency. Panelists leaned forward in heated debates, insisting they knew the meaning. One declared, "This is Demet's way of admitting regret. She wishes things had gone differently with Can." Another countered, "No, this is about closure. She wishes people would stop asking about the past. The split opinions only made the moment more intriguing, as if the mystery itself was now part of her identity. Meanwhile, Italian gossip programs zoomed in on Can's subtle reactions at public events. When asked about Demet, he offered polite smiles but no words. Yet fans insisted his eyes betrayed him. "Look at the way he pauses," one headline screamed. "That's not indifference, that's pain." His refusal to respond only fueled the narrative that something unspoken was still alive between them. Behind the glamour and speculation, industry insiders whispered about opportunity. Rumors swirled that producers were eager to capitalize on the reignited buzz. Pairing Demet and Can in a new project, be it a drama, a film, or even a special interview, was seen as a goldmine. The audience was hungry, desperate to see them together again, if only on screen. Some insiders hinted that offers had already been quietly floated, though neither star had commented. Social media, of course, turned the whole saga into a spectacle of its own. Fan pages compiled proof of a secret longing, matching song lyrics they shared, similar color choices in their outfits, even overlapping travel dates. Most of these connections were circumstantial, yet fans clung to them as evidence that fate was still pulling the two stars toward each other. What made this story endure wasn't confirmation or denial, it was the uncertainty. Demet's unfinished sentence became a mirror for everyone's emotions. To those who believed in love, it was a confession of longing. To others, it was a cry for freedom. But to everyone, it was unforgettable. By the end of the week, it became clear that "I Wish" had done more than spark gossip, it had cemented itself as one of the most powerful cultural moments in Demet's career. A single phrase had made her more relatable, more vulnerable, and, paradoxically, more untouchable than ever before. In the end, 2 words were enough to bring the world back to Demet Özdemir and Can Yaman's story. "I wish," a phrase so simple, yet so heavy with meaning, had reignited a fire that time, distance, and silence had never truly extinguished. Fans remain divided, but one thing is undeniable: the connection between Demet and Can is larger than the individuals themselves. It is a narrative that has outgrown them, shaped by millions who refuse to let the story fade. Whether she meant regret, nostalgia, or an entirely different sentiment, Demet's tears were absorbed by a global audience desperate for answers. And Can? His silence spoke louder than any statement could. The world saw him smile on red carpets, but also caught the flickers of hesitation, the glimmers of something left unsaid. To fans, that silence was confirmation that the bond between them was still alive, hidden in the spaces between words. This is why the phenomenon refuses to die. Because every great love story, real or imagined, leaves behind a question: what if? Demet's emotional confession reminded everyone that the chapter between her and Can was never fully closed. Maybe it ended on paper, maybe in public, but in the hearts of millions, it's still unfolding. Until one of them chooses to speak openly, the mystery will continue to grow. Fans will keep interpreting, the press will keep speculating, and producers will keep dreaming of the day they share the screen once more. Perhaps Demet's wish is for something entirely different, but the world has already decided its own truth. And so, 2 stars remain bound by silence, separated by distance, yet united by a love story that refuses to be forgotten. With just 2 words, Demet Özdemir reminded the world that sometimes the most powerful confessions are the ones left unfinished.